There's a number that the U.S. Navy has been quietly sharing with shipping company executives during daily classified briefings this week. Not publicly, not in press conferences, in closed calls and controlled rooms with people who move oil for a living and need to know the truth. The number is 13. 13 commercial ships struck by Iranian projectiles since February 28th. 13 vessels, tankers, bulk carriers, container ships hit by missiles, drones, and projectiles in the waterway that carries 1/5 of the world's oil supply. And in those same briefings, the Navy has been delivering a message that directly contradicts what the White House has been saying in public. The message is this: escorts are not possible right now, not yet. The risk is still too high. What's up? I'm your host, and this is Economic Arsenal. Today we are going to do something that almost no coverage of this war is doing. We are going to hold two contradictory things in our heads at the same time and figure out which one is true. The Pentagon says Iran's navy is being systematically destroyed and the Strait will reopen. The shipping industry says escorts aren't possible. Both of those statements were made in the last 48 hours. Only one of them can be the full picture. Let's find out which one. Start with what is confirmed. The Strait of Hormuz, the 21-mile wide corridor between Iran and Oman, has been effectively shut since March 2nd. Not legally closed, Iran has not filed a formal international declaration of blockade, but commercially closed, which means the same thing. On February 28th, 50 tanker transits passed through the strait in a single 24-hour period. That is the normal baseline. By March 4th, that number had fallen to 5 crossings, and none of them were major commercial tankers. The U.S. Naval Institute reported that historically the Strait sees 138 vessel transits per day. The current figure is a small fraction of that. Almost entirely Shadow Fleet ships sailing dark, with their transponders switched off, and Iranian and Chinese-flagged vessels making runs. Shadow Fleet ships made up half of all transits, in a waterway that is supposed to be the commercial artery of the global economy. The reason commercial shipping has stopped is not complicated. It is about physical security. Ship owners need a sustained period without attacks. What matters for their decision is whether Iran's ability to wage war has actually diminished. That is the question this entire campaign turns on. To answer it honestly, you need to understand what Iran is actually using to keep the strait closed, because it's not what most people think. Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz with its navy. Let me say that again, because it is the most important sentence in understanding this entire situation. Iran did not close the Strait of Hormuz with its navy. It closed it with drones, kamikaze boats, and fear. The Iranian Navy's surface fleet has been devastated. Over 30 warships struck, including the Jamaran-class corvette sunk at Chabahar Pier on the first day. The drone carrier was left burning at sea on day 5, and the Kilo-class submarine was reportedly sunk at its berth at Bandar Abbas. The U.S. Navy destroyed 9 Iranian warships before most of the world had finished breakfast on March 1st. By day 10, CENTCOM confirmed more than 30 ships destroyed or damaged, and on Tuesday, U.S. forces destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels. The conventional naval threat, frigates, corvettes, submarines, has been reduced to burning metal on the seafloor. And yet the strait is still closed on day 12. Here is the part that the triumphalist narrative of Iranian naval destruction gets wrong. Iran does not need a navy to keep the strait commercially unusable. It needs cheap drones, remote-controlled boat bombs, and a panicked insurance market. Admiral Alireza Tangsiri stated it explicitly. Every vessel intending to pass must obtain permission from Iran. Not the Navy, the IRGC. The IRGC is enforcing that declaration with the same asymmetric toolkit that sank a ship with a kamikaze drone boat on day 1. The Thai bulk carrier Mairi Nari was set on fire on day 12. The Express Room, a container ship, was struck Wednesday morning. 3 ships hit in a single day on day 12 of a war in which Iran has supposedly lost its navy. A maritime security source explained the arithmetic. There are not enough naval vessels to escort the volume of commercial traffic that transits Hormuz. 1 or 2 escort vessels can be overwhelmed by a swarm of fast boats or drones. The math is genuinely difficult. It is possible to escort 3 to 4 commercial ships per day using 7 to 8 destroyers providing air cover. The strait normally moves 138 vessels per day. The gap between what escort capacity can protect and what the economy needs is an order of magnitude. This is not a criticism of the U.S. military. It is a description of the physical reality of asymmetric maritime warfare in a confined choke point. The Iranian Navy was built to fight a conventional adversary in open water. That Navy is gone. But the IRGC's coastal harassment capability, fast boats, drone swarms, and land-based missiles, was never designed to win a fleet engagement. It was designed to make a 21-mile channel commercially unusable at acceptable cost, and that capability is still operational. The mine threat has added a new dimension this week that has changed the calculus considerably. CNN reported Tuesday that Iran had begun laying mines in the Strait Passage, a capability the IRGC has held in reserve for precisely this moment. Trump responded with a message warning that if mines were not immediately removed, military consequences to Iran would be at a level never seen before. The Pentagon then announced U.S. forces had destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels on Tuesday, but whether any mines were already in the water before those vessels were destroyed has not been definitively answered. The Joint War Committee has included the waters around Oman in its list of high-risk maritime areas, meaning bypass routes are now insurance exclusion zones. Even the ports of Duqm and Salalah in Oman, supposed to provide safe anchorage, were struck by Iranian drones last week. The economic consequences of this stalemate are accumulating in real time in ways that are difficult to fully capture. Iraq has already cut oil production by 1.5 million barrels per day because its storage is filling with crude that has nowhere to go. Qatar's LNG facilities remain shut following the strikes on Ras Laffan, adding to the global energy disruption. Gulf oil storage across 7 major producing nations is filling toward the capacity limit, expected to be reached in under 30 days. The IEA announced it would release 400 million barrels from its strategic reserve, the largest release in history, to stabilize the market. This is not a routine tool. The IEA is signaling that the disruption is serious enough to require unprecedented measures. Brent crude is above $91 a barrel. The national average U.S. gasoline price has crossed $3.41 per gallon. U.S. crude recorded its largest weekly price gain since 1983 as the market prices in a potential long-term Hormuz closure. There is a version of this story that ends well. The U.S. Navy destroys enough of Iran's coastal strike infrastructure to restore safety. Escort operations begin, and insurance companies cautiously resume coverage. Oil prices drift back towards $75 as risk decreases. But there is another version. The IRGC retains enough coastal capability along 1,500 kilometers of coastline to continue the threat. Ships continue to be struck despite escort operations. Insurance companies refuse coverage without a massive naval cordon the U.S. hasn't committed yet. Gulf storage capacity is exhausted. Oil surges toward $100, and Europe slides toward recession under the weight of the shock. The honest answer, on day 12, is that we do not yet know which version is closer to reality. The U.S. Navy told shipping companies on Tuesday that escorts are not possible for now, contradicting some social media posts. 3 ships were struck Wednesday. 13 total since February 28th. 6 seafarers killed. The stakes couldn't be higher. The real story is the gap between public confidence and the private assessments shared with shipping executives. The clock on global oil storage and fertilizer supply does not pause. It runs continuously. It ran today, it will run tomorrow. And the world's most important 21 miles of water will determine how much runway it has left. I'll see you in the next one.